Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta
Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura
So we are continuing with Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, chapter number 4. We'll read from 72 to 81. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabhis Tabhirya Eva Nija Rupata Kalabhihi Goloka Eva Nivasti Akhilatma Bhuto Govindam Adipurusham Tam Aham Bhajami. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who resides in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, who resembles his own spiritual figure and who embodies the ecstatic potency or Hiladini. Their companions are her confidants, who embody extensions of her bodily form and who are imbued and permeated with ever blissful spiritual rasa. Purport. This text is from the Brahma Samhita 5.37, text 73. Krishnera karaya yeche rasa asavadana kridara sahaya yeche shuna vivarana. Translation. Now please listen to how Lord Krishna's consorts help him taste rasa and how they help in his pastimes. Text 74 and 75. Krishna Kanta Gana Dekhi Trividha Prakara Eka Lakshmi Gana Pure Mahisha Gana Ara Rajangana Rupa Ara Kanta Gana Sara Shri Radhika Haite Kanta Ganera Vistara. Translation. The beloved consorts of Lord Krishna are of three kinds: the goddesses of fortune, the queens, and the milkmaids of Raja, who are the foremost of all. These consorts all proceed from Radhika. Text 76. Avatari Krishna yeche kare avatara amshini radha haite tina ganira vistara. Translation. Just as the fountainhead Lord Krishna is the cause of all incarnations, so Sri Radha is the cause of all these consorts. 77. Vaibhagana yena tanra anga vibhuti bimba pratimbam bimba rupa mahishira tati. Translation. The goddesses of fortune are partial manifestations of Srimati Radhika, and the queens are reflections of her image. 78. Lakshmi Gana Tanra Vaibha Vilas Amsharupa Mahishi Gana Vaibha Prakasha Swarupa. Translation. The goddesses of fortune are her plenary portions, and they display the forms of Vaibha Vilas. The queens are of the nature of her Vaibhava Prakash. Text 79. Akara Swabhava Bhede Braja Devi Gana Kaya Vyuha Rupa Tanra Rasira Karana. Translation. The Vraja Devis have diverse bodily features. They are her expansions and are the instruments for expanding rasa. Text 80. Bahu Kanta Vina Nahi Rasira Ullasa Lila Rasa Haya Lagi Bahuta Prakasha. Translation. Without many consorts, there is not such exaltation in rasa. Therefore, there are many manifestations of Srimati Radharani to assist in the Lord's pastimes. Last verse for today, 81. Tara madhya vraje nana bhava rasa bhede Krishna ke karaya rasa dika lila swade. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Among them are various groups of consorts in Vraja who have varieties of sentiments and mellows. They help Lord Krishna taste all the sweetness of the rasa dance and other pastimes. Purport. As already explained, Krishna and Radha are one in two. They are identical. Krishna expands himself in multi-incarnations and plenary portions like the Purushas. Similarly, Srimati Radharani expands herself in multi-forms as a goddesses of fortune, the queens, and the damsels of Raja. Such expansions from Srimati Radharani are all her plenary portions. All these womanly forms of Krishna are expansions corresponding to his plenary expansions of Vishnu forms. These expansions have been compared to reflected forms of the original form. There is no difference between the original form and the reflected forms. The female reflections of Krishna's pleasure potency are as good as Krishna himself. The plenary expansions of Krishna's personality are called Vaibhav Vilas and Vaibhav Prakash, and Radha's expansions are similarly described. The goddesses of fortune are her Vaibhav Vilas forms, and the queens are her Vaibhav Prakash forms. The personal associates of Radharani, the damsels of Raja, are direct expansions of her body. As expansions of her personal form and transcendental disposition, they are agents of different reciprocations of love in the pastimes of Lord Krishna under the supreme direction of Srimati Radharani. In the transcendental realm, enjoyment is fully relished in variety. The exuberance of transcendental mellows is increased by the association of a large number of personalities similar to Radharani, who are also known as gopis or sakhis. The variety of innumerable mistresses is a source of relish for Sri Krishna, and therefore these expansions from Srimati Radharani are necessary for enhancing the pleasure potency of Sri Krishna. Their transcendental exchanges of love are the super excellent affairs of the pastimes in Vrindavan. By these expansions of Srimati Radharani's personal body, she helps Lord Krishna taste the rasa dance and other similar activities. Srimati Radharani, being the central petal of the Rasa Lila flower, is also known by the names found in the following verses. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. So we read so many beautiful verses, and the last one with a wonderful purport by Srila Prabhupada. Does anyone remember what we read or what we heard? Yes, it's all about Srimati Radharani. In fact, the first verse that we read today was from Brahma Samhita, where it's explained who is Lord Brahma, the first living entity that is coming from Lord Vishnu, the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And in that verse, Lord Brahma is talking about Krishna's abode, which is called Goloka Vrindavan. So we get references from the scriptures that tell us who is the Supreme Lord, where does he live, what is his address, what is his phone number, all that details are there in scriptures. So he talks about Krishna being the Lord of Goloka Vrindavan. Now in Goloka Vrindavan, in the purport of this Brahma Samhita verse, Srila Prabhupada writes that in Goloka Vrindavan, there are 64 activities in fine arts and crafts that exist over there. And over there, there's mention of Radharani as the Hiladani potency of Lord Krishna. So in all these verses, we were reading about Radharani's expansions, Radharani's all the extensions, or, you know, we heard about the three of them. One is the Lakshmi Devis. It's not Lakshmi Devi, Lakshmi Devis, right? There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Lakshmi Devis. Just like there are many Vishnu forms that we hear from Brahma Samhita also. So there's Lakshmi Devis, then there is Queens of Dwarka, and then the Gopis, the damsels of Braja. So these are the main three. But Srila Prabhupada in the purport says that Radha and Krishna are one, but now they have become two to relish the pastimes with each other. So they are one. So that means if they are one, then there's no difference between Krishna's expansions or Radharani's expansions, because they are the same. That's why even one of the verses, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is talking about that there is no difference. So it is similar. Krishna's expansions are similar to Radharani's expansions and extensions. So both are one, but they are existing as two so that they can enjoy the pastimes in Vrindavan and even in Goloka Vrindavan. Now in verse 73, there's important word which says Shrunu. That Shrunu, we have heard this where? Where have we heard this? Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna tells Arjuna, please hear. That Shrunu means please hear. So hearing is not just hearing by the way. No, hearing means it has to stay here. So it should not come from here and go out from there. It has to stay here. So he's saying, please hear. He's begging. He's saying, you please hear. Why? Because it, until and unless we hear attentively, we will not be able to chant attentively. So hearing is the first step. And even Prahlad Maharaj talks about it. He doesn't say Kirtanam, Shravanam, Smaranam. He says Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. So once we hear attentively, then we will chant attentively, and then we will remember also attentively and not by the way. You know, sometimes when we are driving, the car in front of us may have some sticker. I was reading one, it said, God is my co-pilot, which is I am the pilot, but God is sitting on the seat next to me. He's the co-pilot. So that reminds you, oh God. But if chanting is and hearing is attentive, then remembrance will automatically be always there. So we won't need reminders from others that Krishna is there. So we will learn about, in these verses, we learn how Krishna's consorts help him. Now the question arises, does Krishna need help? No, he doesn't need help. He's full in himself. He's Atmaram. He's fully satisfied. He doesn't need us. He doesn't need our service. He doesn't need our chanting. But then why is it recommended in the scriptures that we should hear and chant? For our benefit, so that we can purify ourselves. So similarly, these consorts of Krishna and Radharani, they come so that they can help both of them in tasting or relishing the rasa. They don't need that help, but this is an opportunity for us to hear these pastimes so that we can also relish and we can understand the loving relationship between Radha and Krishna, and also Krishna and his devotees. So we heard about three expansions of Srimati Radharani, the queens, the gopis, and the Lakshmi Devis. And even though these are the plenary portions or expansions of Radharani, Radharani is the topmost because she is the source. She is the one who is non-different from Krishna himself. So now in these verses, we can also see there is a comparison between Radha and Krishna. Just like Krishna is considered to be, even in Brahma Samhita, it says, he's the fountainhead of all incarnations, expansions, plenary portions, whatever it may be, he is the fountainhead. It all comes from him. In Bhagavad Gita, in 10th chapter, we read, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mataha sarvam pravartate. Krishna says, everything emanates from me. I am the source of all, everybody, all the living entities. So similarly, Prabhupada says, Radharani is the fountainhead of all the consorts. She is one, but now she is not trying, but she is separate from Krishna just for these pastimes. And all these consorts are coming out from her body, from her transcendental body, just for the pastimes, so that they can serve Krishna. They can give pleasure to Krishna. In the mornings when we wake up, what do we think about? How to give pleasure to this body? How to give nice food to this body? How to give some nice clothing or some comfortable place to sit or sleep or whatever. Everything is about the body. Do we, when we wake up in the morning, think, what can I do for the soul today? That should be the first thought. What is it that I can do for the soul? How can I feed my soul today? What is it? Should I try harder to chant attentively? If I think I am chanting attentively, let me see, am I really chanting attentively? So all these things can purify the heart. So here we see that all these pastimes also are there for us to purify our hearts. There is actually, even though there are 3 expansions or 3 plenary portions from Srimati Radharani, you cannot differentiate. You cannot say one is greater than the other. They are all equal. They are all, even Prabhupada says, they are all equal even to Srimati Radharani. You see? So it is all the same. So important to understand is that Srimati Radharani, there is no difference between her and Krishna, and there's no difference between her and her plenary portions. No difference at all. Now it is said in the purpose, Srila Prabhupada explains that Lakshmi Devis, they are partial manifestations of Radharani. And queens of Dwarka are reflections of Srimati Radharani. Now, how do we understand that? I was also confused. So what do you do when you're confused? Ask who? Not me. Yes. So, so when I was reading this, and then not only that, we'll still come to Vaibhav Vilas, Vaibhav Prakash, and all that. We will come to that, yes. So when I was reading this over and over and over again, and I had a realization that this knowledge is there for us to understand, but should we get stuck on this? And then just keep meditating on Vaibhav Vilas, Vaibhav Prakash, plenary portion, expansion. Is it? What do you think? No. What is actually going to help us? Chanting Vaibhav Vilas, Vaibhav Prakash, Vaibhav Vilas, Vaibhav Prakash, or Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Then one may say, then why is this knowledge there? So that we can develop attraction for Srimati Radharani. We can understand, try to understand her position, at least theoretically. Practical realization may come afterwards. This I'm talking about myself. So it may come afterwards, but at least understand it theoretically. So it says that the Lakshmi Devis, they are plenary portions. The queens of Dwarka are reflections. And gopis, they are considered, they are expansions of Radharani. Lakshmi Devi's plenary portions, they display Vaibhav Vilas, and queens of Dwarka, they display Vaibhav Prakash. And gopis, they are just expansions of Radharani. And they are the ones who help Radharani to serve Krishna perfectly. And that is what gives pleasure to Lord Krishna. So the main point to understand here is that there's no difference between Radha and Krishna. They are one, they are identical. Even though Radharani expands as Lakshmi Devis, the queens of Dwarka, and the gopis, and they are all her plenary portions, but she is still the topmost. And there's no difference between Radha and Krishna. Are you all falling asleep?
So what exactly is plenary? What does it mean?
I was thinking about your question. You asked this to me 2-3 weeks ago. Remember, what is the difference between plenary portions and expansions? So I found out from an advanced devotee, and he said it's the same. He said it's the same because they're all coming from Radha and Krishna. Plenary. What is the Google meaning of plenary?
Planets.
Planets, related to planets, right?
Plenary is planets? Oh.
So it's more like
It's
a
a
spiritual world. Plenary is like, you go to planetarium.
That would be planetary.
Yeah.
But
No,
plenary.
plenary is planetary.
Oh.
I can search it out, just make sure.
So it's an absolute, complete in every respect.
Complete in every respect. And what is an expansion? Complete in every respect.
So it seems like Krishna has two expansions, one on the Balram and one in Radha. For all the male
No,
incarnations.
Radharani is not an expansion of Krishna. She is a Hiladini Shakti. She is a pleasure potency of Krishna.
So what is Balram?
Balram is the first expansion of Krishna. But when we hear or reach Srila Prabhupada, what does he say? There's no difference between Krishna and Balram.
Right. So
They are the same, the
there is
Supreme
no
Personality of
difference
Godhead.
between Krishna and Balram.
Yes.
No difference between Krishna and Radha.
Yes, but according to the scriptures, it is mentioned that Balram is an expansion of Krishna, whereas Srimati Radharani is the Hiladini Shakti, pleasure potency of the Supreme Lord. She's a Shakti, pleasure Shakti of Krishna. So main
all
point.
the male incarnations come from Balram, and the female incarnations come from Radha.
Now, I am not sure of that, but here what it is saying is, yes, these are very intelligent inquiries. And I'm not qualified to talk about them because I don't know.
Hare Krishna, the most amazing thing is that there's nothing but Krishna.
Yes. He is all in all. He's the cause of all causes.
That's it.
And he says, everything comes from me. So Radharani also comes from Krishna, but we cannot compare Radharani to the expansions, because Prabhupada says, Srimati Radharani is the topmost. And all the consorts come from Srimati Radharani. All are her plenary portions, and there's no difference. In fact, Srila Prabhupada says there's no difference between expansions and plenary portions. And he also explains that just like Krishna's expansions are called Vaibhav Vilas and Vaibhav Prakash, Radharani's expansions are also called Vaibhav Vilas and Vaibhav Prakash. And gopis, they are the direct expansions of Radharani's body.
So if
So
there's no
again.
difference- if there's no difference between Krishna and Radha,
Mhm.
then there's no difference between Krishna and the gopis.
Whoa.
Can I add something?
Yes.
When Radharani is getting the pleasure to Krishna,
Mhm.
and when Radharani is in the Nico
Mhm.
area, and then the gopis,
Mhm.
Radharani wants to give pleasure
To
the
Krishna. Yes.
through gopis. So
Yes.
gopis can relish that potency from the Krishna.
Mhm.
That way, Radharani
She's
really
expanding the
expanding
the pleasure. Yes, yes. In fact, in spirituality, the consciousness should be that, okay, if I am serving and if another devotee is also serving, give that devotee more service. Let that devotee come forward. It's not that okay, you go aside, let me first. No, no. So same is with Radharani wants gopis to serve Krishna. Gopis want Radharani to serve Krishna. So that is that beautiful relationship between them. So Srila Prabhupada says that the gopis, they help Radharani in loving pastimes of Krishna, but the gopis work under Srimati Radharani. They know the position of Srimati Radharani. See, these topics are very high level, talking about so much in detail about Radharani and the gopi. It's very high level, but at least we can hear it and accept it theoretically, and then probably meditate on it. And then Krishna says that, it is up to his sweet will when he'll help us to realize it. He decides. We make this sincere effort of hearing attentively, chanting attentively, and we do the whole process that is given to us by Srila Prabhupada, and then leave it to Krishna. He will decide when that realization, like in Bhagavad Gita, what does Krishna say? Tesham satata yutana bhajatam priti purvakam. Bhajatam priti. So when he sees someone is very sincerely serving him with love and devotion, dadami buddhi yogam, he says, then I give them the intelligence to understand me. So we cannot directly understand Radha and Krishna. We have to have mercy of Lord Krishna, and he will decide when to help us realize based on our efforts. So these expansions, Prabhupada says, are necessary. Does anyone remember what did Prabhupada say in the purport? Why are these expansions necessary? To enhance. Prabhupada uses that word, to enhance. To enhance the Hladini Shakti. And these personal expansions of Radharani, they help in giving pleasure to Krishna so that he can relish even the rasa dance. We have heard about the rasa dance in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Krishna expands so that he can dance with each and every gopi. And how many gopis were there? Huh?
Yeah.
Millions of gopis. So many of them. And Krishna, because they wanted to give pleasure to Krishna, so Krishna wanted to give pleasure to them, and each one thought, he's dancing just with me. Everyone else, bye-bye. Krishna is only with me. No.
So Mataji, the gopis are only in one universe. Gopis are only one across the world, across all universes, right? They're not like how Lakshmi and Vishnu are in every universe, and there are so many expansions of them. But gopis are not, there's no expansions of them, right? Along with Radha and Krishna.
Yes.
It's because they're all in Vrindavan.
Yes. So what Srila Prabhupada has said in his lectures that 5,000 years ago, Lord Krishna came here to this planet Earth, and in Vrindavan he had his pastimes with Radharani and Gopis. So now, just because those pastimes are finished here, that doesn't mean they are not going on elsewhere. So wherever the pastimes are going on, the Gopis are there to give pleasure to Krishna.
There's no duplication of them. Is the point.
Right, like there's a Brahman
Millions of
everywhere.
universes.
Yes.
There are millions of universes, there are millions of Lakshmi, millions of Vishnu.
Wherever
But
there
they're
is.
not millions of replicas of gopis. They're only, whatever the millions are, they're essentially the same across all universes.
Oh, you mean there is the population doesn't
Yes,
increase?
I mean, not the population, I mean the
The expansions are not more, they are just certain limit.
because they are in Goloka Vrindavan, right? Which is probably only one. Maybe it is.
Yes, there's only one Goloka Vrindavan. Yes, yes.
Just like you have a Brahman in every universe, correct?
Have what?
Brahman, Lord Brahma.
Lord Brahma. Yes,
There's
Lord
many
Brahma.
Lord Brahmas,
Yes, there are many Lord Brahmas.
Some have
Yes.
4 heads, some have 6, some have.
Yes, hundreds. Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes.
there's only one set of gopis. That's what this question is.
Yes.
There's no.
Yes. 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 So in Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada talks about this in the purport. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 3, verse 8, it says, the forms into which the Lord expanded to marry the princesses in different apartments were all slightly different just to match each and every one of them. They are called Vaibhav Vilas forms of the Lord and are affected by his internal potency, Yogamaya. So the forms that differ in dress and you can say in features, you see, that is distinguished as Vaibhav Vilas. I'll repeat again. The forms that differ in dress and features are distinguished as Vaibhav Vilas. And when the Lord is two-handed, he's called Vaibhav Prakash. And this example Prabhupada gives us of when Krishna came as the son of Devaki. Remember, he was in four-handed form, and then he was also in two-handed form. So that is called Vaibhav Prakash form. Sounds complicated, but Prabhupada says Balram is a Vaibhav Prakash manifestation of Krishna. In one form or feature, if one form or feature is differently manifested according to different emotional features, it is called Vaibhav Prakash. So,
So then Narasimha Devi.
yes, different form, different features. Yes. So the feature, the body is the same, but in different house with different devotees, the exchange of feelings is different, and that is called Vaibhav Prakash. Now, what do we learn from this? Krishna is the fountainhead of all incarnations. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and so is Srimati Radharani. There's no difference between Radha and Krishna because they are one. Just like Krishna expands, Radharani also expands. Just like Krishna has plenary portions, Radharani has plenary portions. Yes.
And variety is pleasurable.
Yes. And Prabhupada talks about that in the purport, that variety is needed. And that is why there are so many expansions, so many plenary portions, so many gopis to give pleasure to Krishna. So I was thinking while preparing for this class, what is the purpose of all these verses today? To build a relationship with Krishna. The more we hear, about, say, for instance, the mother tells the boy, that it's time for you to get married, and I found a girl for you. So his next question will be, what does she look like? Does she look like Aishwarya Rai or no? I need to know. What does she look like? Is she pretty? Yes or no?
Yes.
Then afterwards, what is her nature? Everything else comes afterwards. So the moment the mother starts giving information to the boy, especially the picture, then what happens immediately? The boy starts building a relationship with that girl. Then he will hear about her. What is her name? How tall is she? Or where does she live? What does she do? How educated is she? Whatever it is. So all this knowledge will help the boy to build a relationship with the girl even before marriage. Yes or no?
Yes.
But if supposing my mother says, I have found a boy for you. Now, of course, it's too late, but I found a boy for you. But she doesn't give me any information. Mom, please tell me, what does he look like? What does he do? What is his job? How much does he earn? Does he have a house? Does he have a car? Oh, give me some information. And she says, no, you'll know on your wedding day. I know, oh my God. In olden days, the boy would not see the girl, and only when the ghungat would come out, then he would say, oh, this is what I got. I didn't ask for this, but I got this, right? Those were those Vedic days. So the point is that purpose of all this knowledge is so that we can build a loving relationship with Krishna. So when we hear attentively, we meditate or contemplate on what we have heard. So it is said, I remember hearing this in Vrindavan, that if we really want to retain the knowledge that we have heard, we should talk about it with 3 devotees. Discuss it with 3 devotees. Try and find out, what did you learn from today's class? Oh, this is what I learned. And then this exchange helps the devotee to retain that knowledge. Tushyanti cha ramanti cha in Bhagavad Gita. That Krishna says that when my devotees, they meet each other, they discuss about me. They talk about me. And that is how we are able to increase our level of Krishna consciousness. So when the chanting is attentive, hearing is attentive, then one is able to progress on this spiritual path. So this is what we have learned today from verses 72 through 81. If anyone has any questions,
Can I share something?
yes,
In
please.
Vrindavan, there is a